Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable Leader of Opposition for her question, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Environment and Climate Adaptation Levy, or ECAL as commonly known, and the Service Turnover Tax, Madam Speaker, are payable under the Environment and Climate Adaptation Levy Act and the Service Turnover Tax Act. Madam Speaker, firstly, if I can contextualize it, because we are talking about taxes, the Fiji First government has substantially cut taxes in Fiji, Madam Speaker. The income tax threshold in 2006 was $8,840. Today, it is $30,000. In other words, anybody that earns $30,000 or less does not pay any taxes. Corporate tax, Madam Speaker, has been reduced from 20%, from the 31% in 2006 and 35% in 2000. Of course, Madam Speaker, we've also reduced VAT, Madam Speaker, across the board to 9%, and of course significantly reduced duty, in particular on many everyday items, including food that is important, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the question is somewhat, perhaps one could say, misleading, Madam Speaker, because STT and ECAL is actually specifically designed and targeted at a certain group of consumers, both Fijians and non-Fijians also, Madam Speaker. This is what you call targeted taxation. Indeed, it would call what you call progressive taxation, and indeed, we would say it's smart taxation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, essentially, the higher you earn, the more you spend, and therefore, the ability to pay taxes is obviously increased. For the benefit of Parliament, Madam Speaker, let me highlight where STT and ECAL is actually payable. It's payable at all licensed hotels and tourist vessels providing accommodation, refreshments and other services in those areas. Licensed restaurants, bistros and coffee shops with an annual turnover of more than $1.25 million. Not just small mum and dad outlets. Bars and nightclubs. Of course, you want to go to a bar and nightclub, you have to pay this tax. Travel to and sightseeing services by inbound tour operators. All services, including entry ticket fees, provided with cinema premises. There are people, of course, who watch DVDs at home. But if you want to go and watch a movie at the cinemas, then you pay this particular tax. All hired or rental car services, Madam Speaker, but excluding public transportation. All water sports activities, such as river safaris, water sports operators. Accommodation and other services registered home stay operators. Recreational activities such as skydiving. Not everybody goes skydiving every day. Live entertainment by personal participation of artists or exhibition of products where entry fees are charged for events in the venue. Or charter flights, Madam Speaker, by aircraft operators, except flights for medical or natural disaster relief and evacuation services. But if a tourist comes along and wants to charter a flight, charter a helicopter and go and see a particular island or some waterfall, then they have to pay these two taxes, Madam Speaker. Also, Madam Speaker, the 10% ECAL is payable by, those people who are individual taxpayers in Fiji who earn more than $270,000 a year. Whatever amount that they earn more than $270,000 a year, Madam Speaker, they pay 10% on that. Super yachts that come and chart out the yachts, they pay 10%. They used to pay 12.5%, Madam Speaker, as charter fees. That's been removed. They now pay the ECAL and the STT, Madam Speaker. Luxury vehicles with engine capacity exceeding 3,000 cc, excluding, of course, vehicles for public transportation. So if you want to go and buy a nice big BMW 3,000 cc engine, then you'll pay for that. But if you buy a 1,200 engine, or 2,000 engine, 2,500 engine, or if you buy a truck, or if you buy a bus, you don't actually pay for this. Of course, Madam Speaker, we also have the 10-cent levy for plastic bags, because we're trying, everybody in the other side have also asked about garbage. The Honourable Leader of Opposition asked about garbage yesterday. And this is one of the ways to get people to change their attitude and their behavior in respect of how we deal with plastic bags, which is a major contributor to the collection of garbage, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, as we can see, that these taxes are only payable when you go and use these services in these specific areas. So if you want to go and eat at a fancy restaurant in Denarau, you will pay for that. But if you want to go and eat at the restaurant in the market or somewhere else in one of the ordinary shops, you don't actually pay for that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, of course, if you want to go and drink beer at the nightclub, you pay for it. If you drink beer at your home, at your friend's place, you don't pay for this tax. You simply pay the VAT. So, Madam Speaker, this is how it is actually demarcated. And this is what you call specific and targeted taxation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what should be asked really is, or the argument really should be, why local citizens should pay the tax, whether it's STT or ECAL, but rather it should be about the ability to pay tax. The ability to pay tax. How many Fijians actually go and stay at a hotel every day? How many Fijians actually go and drink beer at a pub every day? That's what should be asked. If you only use those services, only then do you pay those taxes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is why we have increased the income tax threshold. We have to pay for it somehow. This is why, Madam Speaker, we are keeping taxes low for ordinary, low and middle income Fijians, and kept a higher rate for high income earners, including targeted or user pay taxes like ECAL and STT. Madam Speaker, we have also, Madam Speaker, in this respect, coupled with that, we provide, as we highlighted, free education, free water, subsidized electricity, subsidized bus fares, and increase the social safety network. We now provide, for example, Madam Speaker, specific welfare allowances for disabled persons, for people who are pensioners. Villagers who never receive FNP now actually get $100 a month. So, Madam Speaker, all of this is, these taxes are specifically targeted. Now, Madam Speaker, if the Honourable Leader of Opposition is saying that Fijians should not pay this tax, so what would happen, Madam Speaker, as we had normally with VAT, is, so for example, if an ordinary Fijian wants to go and stay at a hotel, so they're standing up in the queue to go and check in, so you have a tourist in front of them, they pay the tax, then the Fijian goes and they don't pay the tax, the next person then comes along, pays the tax, the next person comes along, doesn't pay the tax. Accounting becomes problematic. Who is going to monitor it? Who is going to police it? In the same way, Madam Speaker, as has shown, studies have shown, whenever you have even supermarkets, if you have 6 items or 5 items or 2 items that are what we call VAT exempt, and all the others are not VAT exempt, people steal from the system. The taxation becomes very complicated. Monitoring becomes extremely difficult. And that's when people cook the books, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, what we have done, that by having a targeted application of this tax in specific areas, yes, it would have been problematic if we said ECAL and STT is applicable across all restaurants, applicable on everything. Yes, then ordinary Fijians would have been hit by it. But these are specific areas, what we call high-end spending areas, that people actually have to pay for this tax, Madam Speaker. Again, Madam Speaker, I'd like to highlight that by law, the ECAL and STT goes to actually a particular fund, and that can only be in particular ECAL, Madam Speaker, ECAL specifically, and the funds from the plastic bags, and those funds need to be used specifically only for environmental and climate adaptation measures. And there is a law that this Parliament passed, Madam Speaker, that makes it incumbent upon government to provide regular updates on it, to show every year where the money has been spent specifically, and it must be only for those areas. Just by way of information, Madam Speaker, we expect to collect in 2017-18 financial year $114.8 million from STT, and from ECAL $94.3 million. And Madam Speaker, as a percentage of our GDP, STT would be 1%, and ECAL would be 0.9%. As a percentage of revenue collection, STT would be 3.7%, and ECAL would be 3%. Thank you, Madam Speaker.